Happy Friday, everybody. Happy Friday, happy Friday. And checking the audio before we jump in real quick. Hopefully, everyone's having a great Friday today. And let me see here. We are live. And yes, we have an amazing topic for you guys. I know you guys will love it. It's quite controversial. And there's been a lot of updates literally within 24 hours of rumors coming out of Korea that maybe something's happening, right? So let's just throw that out there real quick. But before we jump into today's live stream, we have a couple of topics actually. The rumors out of Korea that maybe LG is considering selling its TV division to Hisense, or maybe not. I'm going to throw this out there real quick. This is where it got started, so I'm going to throw someone else under the bus for once. This was posted by a news outlet in Korea, which within 12 hours, it was immediately pulled, and then something else came up. No, LG says there's no plans to sell its business, but I disagree. I think it should sell its business. But before we jump into all of that, let's say hello to everyone who showed up this Friday to start their weekend blasting off on this live stream. So a big hello to everyone who made it today. And we already got a super chat from Cash My Check. Thank you. Yoga, always good to see you. Giddy, thank you for confirming the audio is great. And let's see, LG display sold, not LG, right? Nothing is sold. Nothing official yet. And we're going to go over why they should sell. It's not even, well, are they selling or not? They are not selling at this very minute. So as you all know, they are very good at denying. Doesn't mean that it's happening, and it doesn't mean that there's anything happening in the background. But in my opinion, where there's smoke, there's fire. Not because of this rumor alone, right? The financials tell the story, and we're going to break it down real quick. So today we're going to hit two topics. First is this LG to Hisense LG TV division to Hisense, very similar to what Sony did with Bravia to TCL. But more importantly, why would they even consider that? Why would anyone consider that? What's the financial implication for LG and Hisense? And secondly, we're going to address some confusion about there are so many Sony RGB TVs. Specifically, there's the Bravia 9 Mark II, Bravia 9 Mark II Pro, Bravia 7 Mark II, Bravia 7 Mark II Pro, and their amazing audio system that can be bundled with it as separates, as a package. It's all over the place. So we're going to walk you through that as well. And then we'll take your questions because, as always, we are live. So let's start with this leak out of China, out of Korea. Almost everything comes out of China in terms of leaks. But this one came from a news outlet that's native to Korea. And so this was posted on Twitter. Everyone went crazy. Oh my gosh, how could this be happening, right? Apparently they're saying, well, LG executives flew to China. And the reason they flew to China is probably to talk about selling their division. But once this came out, LG was immediately in damage control. And so they put out this article telling anyone who would listen, no, we have no plans to sell a TV business, right? So officially from LG, there is no plans to sell the business. However, let me walk you through why I believe at some point they will. And you guys can agree or disagree. Please, in the chat, you tell me whether I'm off track or on track. But listen to my argument first, because this is why when I saw it, I'm like, LG, makes total sense. TV hardware sales are not profitable unless, so we're going to start with this, right? If you're a TV maker, I don't care who you are, Roku TV or Sony or Panasonic, LG, Samsung, you're all facing the same problem. You're facing the TCL Hisense problem. Specifically, it's a structural disadvantage if you are a TV maker and you're not vertically integrated or so closely aligned with your suppliers that you are nearly vertically integrated, like Hisense. So in this case, unless you're vertically integrated and price competitive, being vertically integrated is not enough, just that alone, because let's say you're vertically integrated micro LED TV company, but all your TVs are $30,000, right? Good luck selling more than one or two a month. You need to make more volume. So vertically integrated and price competitive. Because many of you are going to say to me, Fomo, LG, vertically integrated OLEDs, Samsung, vertically integrated QD OLED. They make their own chips, they have their own software. Why is that not enough to be profitable? Because quite simply, their smallest OLED TVs are still too expensive. They're not price competitive. It is not a volume. I would say it is not a value at Costco, right? So if you go to Costco, this is where most people buy their TVs, or Walmart. Look at the OLED TVs. I don't care how cheap that OLED is. At that size, for that price, LCD TVs are bigger and cheaper. And when it's on display at a Walmart or a Costco in vivid mode or store mode, they really all look the same. Now, when you go off angle, you're thinking, well, if I go off angle, it'll look different, right? Well, the content they choose look more closely aligned than not. Don't believe me? Go to Costco, right? The way they have the LG OLEDs on display and the Samsung OLEDs on display. Then you have the Kiom 6Ks and the Hisense U7s. You can't tell which is an OLED and which isn't unless you actually read the label. But what you do see is the size, huge 98-inch, huge 85-inch, and the price. Oh, goodness gracious, for $1,500, I can get a 98-inch TCL, and I can only get for $1,500 a 65-inch OLED? 65 to 98, same price. Remember, this consumer is still paying that same amount of money, not necessarily saving money, just getting a bigger TV. So price competition is important, which means OLED, despite being amazing, the volume sales is not going to grow very much. If anything, we're seeing it shrink. So they're fighting just to stay within the volume they have. So the solution is your hardware cost needs to be offset by something. Operating system revenue, OS revenue, specifically LG. We're talking about LG. Their WebOS makes so much money. Every time you see LG earnings where, oh, the TV division is profitable, it's making so much money, it's not, it has nothing to do with the hardware, nothing at all. It's the operating system that is literally supporting the entire TV operation. The TVs themselves, they're barely selling it at a cost basis. Whatever it costs to make those OLED TVs, they may be making 2% margins on it, right? Everything else is coming from WebOS. So why does WebOS make money? Simple. They are selling data, your data. It's not just ad, right? Most of you don't watch ads. Most of you turn off the ads. They know that. So ad delivery on WebOS, it's there, but it's not a thing, right? The only time the ad makes a difference for WebOS is if you watch that LG TV channel or the LG whatever channel that's free. Samsung TV Plus is free, Roku TV, Google TV, right? These are dedicated channels where if you watch it, that's when the ads split revenue with the TV maker, in this case, WebOS. But most of you may not. If you're not watching what they call FAST, right, free ad-supported TV, and you're just watching your HDMI, your streamer, Netflix, whatever, ads don't come into play. But you know what comes into play? Data about you. They've been so effective collecting your watching habits and sending it back to Korea, repackaging it. They will figure out your demographic, what you like to watch, what you don't like to watch, whatever it is. How many kids are in the family, how many pregnant women there are in the family, right? All that they will know after a few months of watching your viewing habits. They sell that data. That's where the money is. Every time that data is sold and resold, WebOS has a bite of that sale because it's driving its value proposition. WebOS is one of the most, if not the most successful ad platform and data platform in the world. Let me just stop right there. It's more profitable than Roku, more profitable than you name it. So let's just talk about LG WebOS. It's its own platform business. The last two earnings calls from LG Electronics, the focus was on this business platform as its own business. Why do they not pull it away from the TVs? The minute they pull WebOS from the TV revenue, it is so obvious that TV makes no money at all. Shareholders will say, LG, what are you making TVs? Why don't you just spin off your TV division? Let Hisense make the TVs vertically integrated, let them make money on one condition. WebOS needs to be a part of every LG branded TV sold by Hisense. Now, we do not suffer the challenges of global TV market. We don't have to fight China. China is making the TVs for us, but WebOS, that is the cash cow. We hold on to WebOS. The condition of selling anything LG TV hardware related is you must have WebOS as part of that sale. So unlike the whole Bravia joint venture with TCL, where Sony doesn't own any kind of platform, right? They just own amazing image processing, amazing knowledge of how to make TVs, and all that great stuff. But as far as ad revenues, Sony has nothing, right? So TCL is literally picking up the Sony goodwill and the Sony expertise, how to make great TVs. LG, what they have to bring to the table, if they were to spin off their TV division to any third party, doesn't matter who it is, but we'll use Hisense as an example. Hisense will easily say, hey, give us a cut of WebOS, we will sell and build your LG, and we will suffer the cost. And we'll make money on it as well, because you guys have no idea what you're doing. We will vertically integrate everything and use WebOS, and you just collect the cash because any of you who are in technology, it is much easier and cheaper to scale software, to scale data collection, than it is to scale hardware. Because hardware requires a certain minimum volume to make money. Software, really, the minimum volume is very low, right? And they're already there. Can you believe they've been making hundreds of millions of dollars just on WebOS? And that's like pure profit. It's insane how much money they're making WebOS. So let that sit for a second. When I heard that LG was possibly, right, the rumors were spinning off their TV division to to Hisense, smart. It's how you make money. But LG was also very proud, is very proud. They need to hold on to OLED. It is who they are, right? The minute word gets out, they're selling to Hisense, maybe no one will buy their TVs. Who knows? But this is why they will, in the short term, never separate TV sales from WebOS revenue. They need to keep it together. That way, they can tell you, oh, TVs are profitable. Once again, we're making amazing profit on TVs. They're making amazing profit because of WebOS, not because of the TVs. And lastly, WebOS is also available to third-party brands and outside platforms. So to stop right there, not only is WebOS revenue from LG TVs, WebOS revenues are from third-party licensing, whatever, non-LG products using WebOS. Guess what? WebOS is getting paid for those brands as well. So, complicating matters, WebOS is bringing outside revenue into the TV division, or rather the home entertainment division, or the MS division, whatever they call it, right? The media platform division. It's, on the one hand, it's kind of sneaky. It leads you, the consumer or the LG fan, to think, oh, TV sales are fine. Look how much money they're making. TV sales, in terms of profitability, is completely propped up by WebOS. You take away WebOS, and it'll be probably similar to Sony, if not worse, in terms of its profit margins, in terms of its profitability. So keep that in mind. That's why, maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but the shareholders at some point are going to wise up and tell LG leadership, why do you keep on making TVs? You're dragging down the bottom line. TV enthusiasts will disagree, but that's a different discussion. Okay, so strategic TV partnerships in the future. So we mentioned that, right? If LG is to consider spinning off its TV division, it is a pure WebOS play. How do we get more TV sales to have more WebOS distribution? It's not so much we're proud of the LG brand. We need to get more LG TVs into more hands. And if that means selling to Hisense or selling to TCL, whoever, if going that route gets more LG/WebOS TVs into the public space, they will do it. Because that will end up earning more revenue than them trying to sell TVs. Now, the discussion about LG OLED TVs and whether it's worth it or not, that's a completely different discussion. I'm going to have that discussion at a later date. The G6 is on its way. It's fully calibrated. Dolby Vision's calibrated. All that good stuff. Dwayne Davis did a phenomenal job. As soon as it arrives, I think it's en route right now, we're going to have it up against the Bravia 8 Mark II and the G5. Is the G6 that much of an improvement? Because remember, the G6 has gotten a few updates since our spring stream. So that's going to indicate a lot whether the G6 is worthwhile or whether you should get the G5. So before we jump into the next topic, which is Sony Bravia 9 Mark II and all that good jazz, let me hit the super chat as well as hit some of your questions and say hello to everyone. So quick super chat. Thank you. Cash my check. Let's see what you got for us here. Sony is going downhill. No 98-inch true RGB Bravia 9 Mark II. No 4 HDMI 2.1 ports, and you mean specifically gaming ports. Technically, HDMI.org has changed the definition of 2.1. Technically, all TVs have 2.1 now. If it's showing 4K, it's 2.1, but I know what you mean. You mean a high bandwidth gaming port with a minimum of 40 gigabits per second or higher. I get it. But yeah, so Sony does not have more than 2 high bandwidth gaming ports. On their true RGB TVs, no Dolby Vision 2 Max support. I don't think Dolby Vision 2 is important. It has to be Dolby Vision 2 Max. So yes, no Dolby Vision 2 Max has been mentioned at all. I don't think it will be supported. But yet, they want us to pay a premium for their true RGB TVs. Is Sony a joke? So let's talk about value. So I'm going to address this right now. If you have a Bravia 9 on sale near you, buy it immediately. They're sold out everywhere in the West Coast, in the East Coast. I looked at Best Buy. I think the only sizes available now at Best Buy is 85-inch. And in the East Coast, all sizes are sold out, on Best Buy at least. The Bravia 9 is an absolutely amazing TV. Personally, I believe it challenges easily the Bravia 7 Mark II. It may be the better TV. It has more dimming zones, I believe, than the Bravia 7 Mark II. It performs like a slightly less bright version of the Bravia 9 Mark II. Now, RGB, true RGB off angle is better. So I expect the Bravia 7 Mark II to preserve color saturation better off angle, as we saw on my stream. Was it only just yesterday? We did this Wednesday, right? We did it on Wednesday. And yes, I mean, there are some benefits, but the reality is, darkroom watching, the Bravia 9 is perfection. Even now, I have never yet seen a mini LED TV match the Bravia 9 in darkroom watching. It is so good. The only TVs that beat the Bravia 9 continues to be an OLED, like a Bravia 8 Mark II, or even one of the LGs if it's calibrated. It needs to be calibrated because it has trouble near black, or the actual reference monitor. The TCL X11L, I believe, out of the box, it still over brightens a little bit. And maybe it's doing that to offset some of the issues, but after the next firmware update, we're going to test that one more time. Once I get the 75-inch into the studio, so I have a Bravia 8 Mark II 75-inch on the way. It's closely aligned in size to my 85-inch X11L, so that's going to be a great one. And of course, it exactly matches the QM8L, so you guys can see how 75 against 75, 85-inch or 75 inches. And the UR9, I'm getting a 75-inch as well, because a lot of people are saying, the 65-inch, maybe it's, I don't want to say it sucks, but for the price, yeah, it's not great. Maybe at 75 inches, a few extra dimming zones is going to help, whatever. We'll compare it. But regardless, the Bravia 9 is already a legend. So let's just stop there. This is going to be my goodbye to the Bravia 9. It is no longer available for sale at most retailers. Call Robert. He might have a couple in stock, but it is at its full discount. It is on clearance. The Bravia 9, this is it, guys. The best of a generation. I love the Bravia 9, and most importantly, it is compatible with the latest audio system. That whole wireless connect, Bravia 9 is compatible. So if you guys need an 85-inch TV and you're on the West Coast, I think Best Buy still has a few Bravia 9s left. Go ahead or call Robert, obviously. If you want to calibrate it, give him a call, but I don't even know if he has any in stock. So to your point, cash my check. Currently, the Bravia 9 Mark II, because it's just released, it's not cheap. But what did we just talk about in the last segment, which is making TVs is expensive unless you're vertically integrated. Sony is not vertically integrated. I cannot blame them for charging what they charge. TCL, let's just take a pause. The X11L at launch was the same price as the Bravia 9 on those sizes, if not maybe more expensive. So it's hard to blame Sony for the prices when TCL, who is vertically integrated, its MSRP is right there, right? So I think they start the 75-inch size. So if you look at the 75-inch sizes on the Bravia 9 Mark II and the X11L at launch, very similar. So even TCL vertically integrated, they're like, no, these are expensive TVs. So to be fair, if you want the kitchen sink, now on TCL's side, yes, they have full HDMI 2.1, 48 gigabits across the board. So, you're getting a little bit more, but again, you're going to pay for that pleasure of every feature being there. And, it is what it is. So we can't really defend Sony in the sense that it's not cheap, but they still need to stay in business, right? They're not offsetting anything with ad revenues, right? Google TV does not pay them a lot. This is why a lot of companies are leaving Google and starting their own. Like Philips is now Titan OS, and Hisense is making its own V.A system because Google is not doing a great job with publishing splits and distribution of revenue. I mean, whatever it is, right? Just Google's so focused on AI, its ad division for TVs is just all over the place, whatever. So Sony has Google TV. So clearly they're not going to make a lot of money off of Google TV. And that's why there's no offsets to help you reduce the cost of the TV. So to your point, that premium is not extraordinary. Look at Samsung. We're going to have the R95H 75-inch size here, and then we'll see slightly less expensive R95H. Yeah, it might have 4 gigabits, 4 high gigabit gaming ports, which is what Samsung does, but because it creates its own, it makes its own chipset, it's able to do that. It doesn't have to wait for MediaTek or whatever, right? It's fully integrated. Software, image processing, all of that. One company, very easy for them to do all of that. That's why they got rid of, or not got rid of, they don't even have Dolby Vision. They don't want to deal with a third party. They don't want to have a third party where they have to recalibrate every time. It's a waste of their money. I agree with that decision. So I understand that the value isn't there for you, but then on the flip side, out of the box, rarely is there a TV brand that consistently is that accurate out of the box. You guys saw my reference monitor. All 3 TVs look nearly identical to the reference monitor, and none of them were calibrated. That's how Sony does it. Hisense, you saw all over the place. U7SG, more closely aligned with the reference monitor. The UR9, completely oversaturated, completely off, right? And then you have the QM8L, slightly less accurate than the X11L. I mean, Sony consistently gives you that accuracy, but that's also not cheap. They're literally tuning it at the factory to make sure that TVs are consistent. So these little things do cost money. But I understand, right? If you need to save money, get yourself a TCL because that's why they're winning the value race. QM6K, still a winner in 2026, in my opinion. But those who do have the money, they will pay the premium because, dun, da, da, you have the Bravia 9 Mark II and the Bravia 9 Mark II Pro. So we're going to jump in and talk about the differences in a second after I get rid of all these super chats, and then we'll jump in and I will help recommend the pathway if you are considering a 2026 Sony RGB TV. Bravia 9 would have been my first choice for value, mostly gone now. If it's there, get it because these audio bundle pathways still apply. Real quick, hey Getty, thank you for the super chat. Fomo, how about a second sub SW5 for the quad update? Unfortunately, no. The second sub addition, or rather the capability of 2 subs, is unique to the Trio, the Bar 9, and the Bar 7, and the certain receivers, right? It's for wireless, dual sub, certain pieces of equipment only, but within the compact space, Bar 9, Bar 7, the Trio, and a few receivers, they will give you the second sub option. One sub wireless to the TV is the current limit right now. I'm trying to convince them to make it 2 at some point, but I understand why. I will explain why you need to add the trio for the second sub. It's realistically on the audio side, it's not practical to have that much bass with only TV audio. And hey, Big Phil, thank you for the super chat. I'm sure you have a question somewhere. I will look for that after I go through all these super chats. So keep on asking your question, Big Phil. We'll find you. Robert Conrad, thank you, my friend. No Bravia 9 except open box at Best Buy in the Southwest. Yeah, selling out like crazy. Selling out. Thank you, Robert. It is a legend. Those of you who have it, you have the last of something great, and it's still good. It's amazing that it's 2 years old and still outperforms almost everything out there, short of the X11L and the Bravia 9 Mark II, or King of TV's OLED, or the G6, G5, right? It's insane. Thank you for the super chat. Kislev, I see it. Don't see your question yet, but I'm sure we'll find it. Oh, I see it below. Okay. And cash my check. If LG was ever to sell, it should not be to Hisense. Hisense does not even make OLED TVs, and Hisense mini LED TVs is inferior to LG OLED TVs. Correct. They would have to really give Hisense some kind of access to the LG display OLED stack, but you're right. Maybe they would just sell the LCD side of things. Now, you'll be surprised. LG still sells LCD TVs, but we're talking entry level, cheaper TVs. I think our friend Tech Steve just reviewed an LG LCD TV. I think it was like $350 or something, right? So that market, maybe Hisense should buy. Maybe not the OLED. OLED could be kept by LG and then just let Hisense produce and build out all the LCDs. Because the Toshiba TVs you see on Amazon, even the Regza, that's designed and sold by Hisense. So yeah, Toshiba is sold by Hisense. So they're used to making other branded TVs that are cheaper. But hey, if LG can't make money on it, let Hisense make money on it, and it still has WebOS. But yes, good point. I don't think OLED should be sold to anyone else because they're going to have a hard time making any money on it if LG cannot. It's weird that LG still offers only 2 HDMI 2.1 ports in 2026. HDMI 2.2 may arrive next year or the year after. Okay, so a couple of things. Correction. LG OLED TVs, I don't know about their other non-OLEDs, is 4 high bit rate, right? We're talking over 40 gigabits per second, I think 48. Gaming, 4 of them. So LG does offer 4 in 2026. The question maybe is HDMI 2.2. Let me ask you, Kiselev, other than high performance gaming at 8K 60, why do you need HDMI 2.2? I'm throwing that back to you guys. I think 2.1 for gaming on a TV is absolutely fine, unless you're thinking of gaming 4K 240. Yeah, 2.2 will support 4K 240, and that would be the limitation, right? Super high bandwidth gaming, but I think 4K 240, only OLEDs are going to be capable of that. I don't think LCD TV should even get close to that. They can't even handle 4K 120 VRR right now, so forget 240, right? So yeah, maybe if 4K 240, if you guys can afford the GPU, it actually does that. I mean, even the 5090 is going to have a problem with 4K 240 since they can't really do 4K 120 unleashed. So it's going to be a few years before the actual graphics cards can support 4K 240 that justifies the jump to 2.2. But let me know, yeah, besides gaming, what does 2.2 bring to the table? So yeah, that's a good question, good comment there. Pull ahead from Mass. I don't even know what this name means. I am looking at a 98-inch size, so picking between the Bravia 7 Mark II, TCL X11L, or TCL QM8L, and the RM9L, and the UR9. How soon till we get a comparison so I can buy one on Prime Day? So the 7 Mark II, I have to call Sony and see if they have a 75-inch I can borrow, because I'm getting the 8 II at 75 inches. 7 II is probably going to come later. X11L we have, QM8L we have. I recommend against our RM9L, that would be the RGB version. And why would I recommend against the TCL RM9L? Because TCL has spent 2 months educating me on how terrible the RM9L is compared to the X11L. So if TCL is telling me not to get the RM9L, basically it's there if you really need RGB TV. We're going to put it out there, but we're going to tell you between you and I and whoever's in this room, get the X11L. So once TCL said that, I just crossed off the RM9L from my list. Between the two, X11L is your TCL of choice. Now the QM8L, I found if you don't care about accuracy and you want that extra brightness punch, the QM8L in a bright room will do that harder. However, in a dark room, the X11L will be more accurate. Shadow details, everything will be brightness accurate. It follows the EOTF curve. If you know what that is, then you know the QM8L does not follow it well at all. It over brightens. Where there's a bright scene, it's a little bit more bright. And for me, I think most people will like that, but it's not accurate. So it depends on what you're looking for sure. At that 98-inch size, and the UR9 I found to be all over the place. Its color's a little bit off. Its tone mapping is definitely worse than the X11L. We saw it a few times. I felt the U7SG overall is the better TV. So I would choose the U7SG at the 98-inch size before they choose the UR9. The UR9 is bright. It is as bright as the X11L, but I don't think that's enough. The QM8, so it would be between the QM8L and the Bravia 7 Mark II. Why? The 7 Mark II is the movie watching TV, period. Skin tones out of the box, no need for calibration. You cannot calibrate a TCL TV. You simply cannot. It does not hold calibrations well. You can with a Sony. So you have the option of calibrating it or not because it looks so good out of the box. For movie watching, I take the 7 Mark II all day long. For gaming, you may want to wait for gaming comparisons. Normally, TCL does really well with gaming. Apparently this year, though, it took a step back. The QM 8K, 9K series were better at gaming last year, so we'll see if a firmware update helps with gaming motion. But those are for the high-performance gamers. So let me know, Pullhead, whether you're a content watcher or you need good gaming performance, or you're in a bright room or a dark room. Dark room, it would be between the X11L and the Mark 7, Bravia 7 Mark II. So yeah, give me more context to what you watch and your room. And let's see. Okay, we got. Oh, it's where the Sony still offers only two. So you meant Sony, not LG. Gotcha. Okay, so if you guys missed my stream, I explained why Sony did this. And it's not a defense and it's not an apology. It is the reason. The reason is Sony took decades to introduce this technology, the RGB, true RGB. And in the last few years, finally, nearing production, what was available to them was the SoC MediaTek chip they had available to them 2 or 3 years ago. That chip was limited to two HDMI 2.1 ports. So it took them a few years to polish it, to make it mature. What is it you guys always complain about, right? Oh, the firmware is not baked out of the box. This is terrible. I'll never buy this TV brand again. Sony did not want that issue. They wanted to be fully baked or as close to baked out of the box when we launched it, so it's near perfect, right? Well, by the time launch came, MediaTek introduced a new chip that has four 2.1 ports, which is what TCL is using this year. Sony's like, look, we are not going to take another 2 years to rebuild this entire software stack for this all-new chip. We'll wait till the next generation to do that. And of course, TCL will be doing that because TCL has taken over moving forward. So Sony's like, we are not going to rebuild this chip, right? Everything is baked. This chip works well. It looks beautiful. If you need a gaming TV, get another gaming TV that has four ports. If you need the four ports, two is what it is. We're sorry, but that's the chip we've been using to test everything, to make everything look perfect. It will power this TV fine. So that's why we only have two HDMI 2.1 ports. That's at least what Sony told me, and I believe it, right? It makes complete sense. So it's not going to come next year either in terms of what before. Sony is not cycling through these changes every 6 months like TCL. But I suspect the Bravia 9 Mark III, whenever it comes out, will have all four because now TCL is in the driver's seat and they want every TV to have four, right? So we'll see what happens. But yeah, this is going to be just like the Bravia 9 for the next 2 years. I think this is the TV. So let's talk about, speaking of the Bravia 9, now we're at the Bravia 9 Mark II. Let's talk about which one you should get. And this segment is, of course, sponsored by our good friends at Value Electronics Robert Zone. He carries all these TVs, right? Whether it's LG, Samsung, or Sony. But today we're talking Sony because this is an all new lineup. RGB, true RGB TV, right? You have the Bravia 9 Mark II, and for the first time, the Bravia 9 Mark II Pro, Bravia 7 Mark II, and Bravia 7 Mark II Pro. The Pro is a few $100s more across the board. Why is it a little bit more? So we'll start with the 9 Mark II Pro. It brings two things to the table. Well, three, but one of them is the big one. Basically, you're getting a 3-year replacement warranty, limited, obviously, right? But once Sony, you have something wrong with your TV, whatever the reason is, you call Sony, they check it out. Oh, okay, all right, this qualifies, right? You didn't kick it on purpose, so you can get a free TV. So, boom, they replace it. You're done, right? It includes whatever to replace the TV. As long as they know that the TV is not operating as it should, right? They'll check it out. Boom, easy, 3 years. The 1-year warranty is a typical 1-year warranty. They may repair it, they may replace it. It just depends on what's wrong. Typical. That's on the 9 Mark II. Mark II Pro is exclusive to custom installers, premium custom installers like Value Electronics. So that 3-year replacement warranty, limited as it is, I think is still probably the better way to go than a third-party insurance company because it's Sony direct, right? You're working directly with Sony. And that also applies to the 7 Mark II Pro. Additionally, the 7 Mark II Pro comes with a backlit remote. The 7 Mark II does not. You got to go to Pro to get the backlit remote. Whereas the Bravia 9 Mark II and Mark II Pro both have backlit remotes. The last big difference is you get what they call enhanced voice zoom. If that makes a difference for you, you get more settings on the 9 II Pro. So it's not a big deal. And you get more of that Bravia movie whatever, membership, more movies available. But I think the big deal really is the 3-year warranty that you're paying for. Now, here's the good thing. If you buy through Value Electronics, tell them Fomo sent you, they have 10% credit you can apply to the bundle, the audio bundle pathway. So this, I think, makes a lot of sense. Those of you who do not like soundbars, but you know your TV is missing a subwoofer, it's missing a bass, and you don't want to buy a soundbar just to add a subwoofer because what are you going to do with a soundbar, right? You think the TV sounds fine. It's just a bit unfleshed below 240 hertz. Most TVs under 200 hertz, let's say, if you guys are familiar with the frequency curves, there's nothing there. There's nothing under 200 hertz, right? Adding a sub 9 wirelessly connects to your TV, you're done. So you got your Bravia 9 Mark II, or the Bravia 9, or the Bravia 7 Mark II, or the Bravia 7 Pro, or the A95L, or the Bravia 8 Mark II. If you have any of those TVs, or you're buying them, you can get it bundled with a sub 9, and suddenly, I think you have the full system, because subwoofer is what separates a good home system from a mediocre or subpar system. It starts with a bass. Now, if you want immersion, you could then add the second part of the bundle, which is the rear 9. So you could add those together, right? You don't have to get the rear 9. I suggest get the sub 9 first. If it's great, perfect. You guys add the rear 9 later, right? Right for Black Friday, whatever, or you can get them together, rear 9 and sub 9. These are for the larger rooms. Now, what is the sub 9? It is 2 sub 8s stacked together. So you're getting a dual subwoofer system with a sub 9. And so when you get 2 sub 9s, you're literally getting 4 sub 8s. That, I like to say, partly my fault. I told Sony, you got to find a way to quadruple your subwoofer count because this is ridiculously small. American buyers want more sub power. And like, fine. And that's what they did. Sub 9. 2 is actually 4 sub 8s. That is awesome. And the sub 8 for most medium to small rooms is already amazing. The sub 9 is going to be very satisfying. Now, this is why you have to add a second sub 9 or a second sub 8. It has to be the same subwoofer. You have to add the trio system, which is a center channel and 2 front sides, right? So left, center, right. That's the trio, 3. Or add a bar 9. And this is why the TV audio cannot keep up with 2 sub outputs. It's just being realistic. Like, wait a minute, now your sub is way too loud. Your TV is going to sound minuscule. it's not meant to be that loud. Because if you turn your TV audio to like 100, distortion, whatever, right? Your TV audio comfortably will go up to 60 or 70. It's pretty loud, but your sub, two of them, way too much bass. You really have to add either the bar 9 or the trio. Now you have the second sub 9 and it works perfectly. So this is a great pathway to add incrementally to your TV over time and not invest in a giant system all at once. And you may not need to, right? If you're in a small apartment, you just may want the sub 8. And so TV plus sub 8, you're good to go. Or sub 8 and rear 8, no soundbar, directly connects to the Bravia 9, 9 Mark II, Mark II Pro, 7s, Mark II Pro, A95L, Bravia 8 even, and the Bravia 8 Mark II. So Value Electronics, Robert Zone will walk you through the option, but tell him, hey, Fomo sent you, he's going to apply 10% credit and then some to your entire package. And it doesn't have to be the 9 Mark II. It could be the Bravia 8 Mark II. All those TVs are compatible wirelessly with this system. So I just love how Sony did this pathway for you guys. Yeah, ask me if you have any questions about that. And oh, we got another couple of super chats, so let's hit them real quick before I fall behind again. All right, cash my check. If Sony releases a new OLED in 2027, so we're already talking next year, we haven't even finished the Bravia 9 Mark II. Do you think it should be Samsung Quantum Dot Penta Tandem panel or the LG RGB Tandem panel? And is it better to go up to 4K 4,000 to 5,000 nits with Dolby Vision 2 Max on it? So a couple of things to unpack. I love you packed your questions. You're going to get your money's worth of this one, my friend. Okay, so if you guys have been doing the reading on panel technology, which clearly Cash My Check has, Samsung has been playing with the next generation quantum dot called the Penta Tandem, but it appears that definitely it's limited to IT, PC monitors, all that stuff for now. They need to make sure that this new tandem technology can be brightened up to, as you said, 4,000 nits without affecting lifetime. On a smaller screen, perceptively speaking, it feels brighter because you're sitting closer, right? Gaming, all of that. You know, you're only, 36 inches away, 24 inches away. It looks amazingly bright at 1,000 nits. So they don't have to go that bright for PC monitors. So that's where we're going to see that first. Whether or not it will ever make it to TVs, if they go to 4,000 nits, will it shorten the lifetime, affect the warranty? If it does, they will not do it, simply because it's just not practical, right? So they need to test the lifetimes to make sure it will last at 4,000 nits, because that's where we are right now. People expect 4,000 nits, even though I don't think we need it, but with Dolby Vision 2 Max, so now we get to Dolby Vision 2 Max, yes, with Dolby Vision 2 Max, you can now elevate your source content to the maximum capability of the TV. Now, whether Sony will incorporate Dolby Vision 2 Max, because we're talking about Sony. Sony needs the new chipset to do that. So in 2027, and it would be TCL, right? The Bravia roadmap. If Sony has already started developing the Bravia roadmap for 2027 to include OLED, and now that TCL is taking over, TCL would have to go in there and re-engineer everything to incorporate the new MediaTek chip that is capable of Dolby Vision 2 Max. And then, is there enough time to rebuild that entire software stack to, one, keep it Sony accurate and offer all the gaming features, and as well as Dolby Vision 2 Max, if they can get it done? The answer is yes. I suspect it'll be 2028 if you want this. I mean, that's a lot of work, in my opinion, if it's not already in the roadmap. So we'll see. Now, whether it's the Penta Tandem or the RGB Tandem, I would err towards the RGB Tandem if LG can also get it bright enough. Because what you're saying is, on the RGB Tandem, it's no longer using the white subpixel. That could also be a problem for LG. The white subpixel is what prevents burn-in. The white subpixel is what gets them to 4,000 nits. You take away the white subpixel, how do you get to 4,000 nits? Many of you have said, why don't we add an MLA layer? That adds another expense. I mean, are people willing to pay for it, right? It's the whole, what did we talk about earlier? The TV is not getting cheaper, it's getting more expensive. Is that going to make more sales if they do this? That's hard because just like with the Penta Tandem panel, if it gets brighter, is it going to shorten the life because you're no longer using the white subpixel to increase longevity, right? That's the thing. This is why the white subpixel works. Yes, color is slightly desaturated, but it lasts a bit longer. And even with the white subpixel, if you watch it in vivid mode, Robert Conrad still got burned in. So can you imagine if you did it on this RGB without the white subpixel, how much more quickly you'd get burned in vivid mode? So these are all considerations by all the TV makers. They have to make sure that people don't see burn-in if they introduce this. But good question. I love that you're excited about the new technologies. NXS, thank you for the super chat. Two, bro, got one for you. I just found out today. LG 95B micro RGB. So that's their flagship micro RGB Evo. What are your thoughts versus Sony True RGB? We will see that TV at some point at Value Electronics, hopefully by the Shootout. So I can have my eyes on them side by side. As you know, Value Electronics, Robert Zone, we're talking about, I'm going to bring him up. He will be, again, hosting, organizing the 2026 King of TVs Shootout at Value Electronics on July 18. I'll be there covering it. We're hoping to have the LG 95B micro RGB there, side by side next to the Samsung R95H, next to the Sony RGB, True RGB TV, the Bravia 9 Mark II. Those are the best three from the top three makers in terms of their LCD TVs. We'll see what's what. There is no guarantee that the LG will make it there on time. See, that's my only holdback is LG has announced it, they've launched it, but as you saw last year, even their 100-inch QNED, never available. Literally, they went from launch at CES until the end of 2025. No one could buy it. So here's hoping that we can actually get the 95B into our hands, at least as a retailer, because Robert Zone is an official retailer for LG. So if it's available, he'll have it there for you guys to check out. And Dreeg, thank you for the super chat. Another long-time viewer. Speaking of TVs selling to other brands, TCL will end up fully buying Sony in the future. Mark my words. I'm sure they have that option, right? Right now, TCL owns 51% of the Bravia joint venture. Sony owns the other 49%. And if this is amazing and they pay Sony enough money, yeah, why not, right? Take it over because they finally turned Bravia around into a money-making operation, because before, this is just a money-losing operation for Sony. And it still is, by the way. TCL is taking it over to turn things around. So we'll see. And we'll see if there's an option for TCL to buy it, first offer, first refusal type of thing. So we'll see for sure. And pull ahead. Thank you for the follow-up. Super chat here. I am looking to do the Sony Trio with rear 9s and dual sub 9s. Yes, that's the way to go. Do you think that will sound better than Sony Quad with sub 9? Absolutely. So the Sony Quad is not meant to be loud, it's meant to be immersive. Let's stop. The Trio is meant to keep up with two subs. The Quad is meant to be with the SW5, the last generation subwoofer. It was not designed to keep up with the, I dare say the sub 9 might be too loud for the Quad. I mean, just a perfect match. So if you're thinking dual subs in your future, you have to think Trio. That and the Bar 9. Both of those are designed volume-wise to match the subs maxed out. I don't want to call it reference, but this is as close as you're going to get from these all-in-one type of systems. So yes, Trio, rear 9, dual sub 9, that is the power match, literally, right? Amplifier power, loudness power. The Quad, immersive power, not necessarily loudness to keep up with, well, maybe sub 9, yes, but not dual. And the Sonos Ultra with dual 300s and dual sub 4s. That is quite the shootout. I have great respect for Sonos. They were the first to offer these options. Basically, if you want to be in the Sony ecosystem, you have the Sony. Sonos has a very expansive audio ecosystem with its weird software that they recently updated that was a huge fiasco during that update. But Sonos is its own audio ecosystem. They make great TV immersive systems, but I like that Sony tunes theirs for movies. Sonos tunes there for music audio first. So the equalizer system, all of that really is meant to make music sound perfect. Sony, when they tune their entire system, whether it's the Trio or whatever, it's in a soundstage with the audio engineers testing literally. Let's say they just finished producing the audio track for whatever the latest movie is, right? Spider-Man. They were then invited to test that same track on the Trio with the Sub 9, dual Sub 9, whatever. And so they're trying to match that cinematic scale. That's how they're tuning the Sony audio system, these ones specifically. Sonos is not doing that. So it's kind of like you got to choose the right tool for the right job. If you're listening to a lot of music and hey, I would love to watch TV as well, Sonos is the way to go. If it's movies first, but it would be nice to listen to some music, right? Because it's AirPlay compatible, then you go with the Sony. So, you tell me what your priorities are. Both are premium systems, and I don't have a bad thing to say about any of them. They're very well made. Okay, let's get to your questions. And if I missed it earlier, I know someone had a super chat, but I could not find his question. So if you're still there, Big Phil 2093, I will look for your question if I can find it. But let me know. Any comments about any questions about this year's 2026 or 2025 TV? This is Friday. You have the weekend to go shopping. Let me know. And we're going to have a lot of TV reviews. The S95H is on its way. The G6, as I said, is on its way. And then we have the G5 here. And so I cannot wait to compare after all the firmware updates. Has anything changed? Because I know a lot has changed on the G5, much to many of your dissatisfaction. Oh, I gotta love it. Okay, guys, let's see. So here's a good comment. Morty Mishita. The new TVs are so bright. It's like you're driving down a road in the dark and it's just dark and the headlights, yes, they blind you and you have an axe. That's how I feel. So this is how a lot of people feel. You don't have to watch in vivid mode, right? This is probably why Netflix is so dim. Netflix does not want to fully utilize your TV. If Netflix was to be graded at 5,000 nits, which it can be, right? It doesn't add any more bandwidth. The TVs that are in filmmaker mode, capable of 5,000 nits, will blast 5,000 nits of specular highlights into your face. They don't care if it's a dark room or not, right? Boom! Oh! And I think Netflix wants to avoid that. However, Dolby Vision 2 Max allows you to turn that on. So now you could toggle beyond what Netflix thinks is safe, right? So Netflix right now is 200 nits, 250 nits at the most, right? So you're right, Mori Mashida. It is very bright. And I see, honestly, no reason to get a 10,000 nit TV unless you're going to use it, meaning specular highlights. And to actually use it, you either need the source to get above 4,000 nits or you need to be put in vivid mode, right? So yeah, let me know. You guys who are paying extra for these bright TVs, like me, how are you getting there? How are you delivering that maximum brightness? Because if you saw the recent review by Ratings on the G6, patterns and meters, yeah, 4,000 nits. Wait, the content looks just like a C6H. What happened? That's what we're talking about, right? It's capable of this, but then what is it? It looks like Tarzan, but fights like Jane. But I don't want to insult Jane, right? So now that Jane knows Kung Fu, right? Fights Kung Fu like Jane, but sits on the couch like Tarzan. That's kind of what the G6 is doing, is it measures awesome, and then you put on real content, and it's no brighter than C6H, right? So how do we enable that? How do we get them to unleash? Because filmmaker mode, I get it. It should not be brighter than C6. Filmmaker is what filmmaker is. But vivid mode, it needs to be unleashed. So LG, so we're going to have the G6 and we have the G5, and we'll see. In vivid mode, does the G6, with its latest firmware update, unleash vivid mode. I don't mind that filmmaker mode is accurate. That's what it should be. But cinema home and vivid mode, or at least standard mode, I need a way to unleash this extra premium I paid for, right? Right? Am I wrong? Okay, and let's see. Here we go. Asaf has a good comment here. My Samsung S90F, I love it. That is my editor's choice from last year. QD OLED, not the 83-inch. But the colors are not natural like the Sony. I tried every setting, nothing works for me. The best setting, Asaf, and when I say best, I mean this is as good as you're going to get short of a calibration, is filmmaker mode, static. And if it doesn't appeal to you, you got to get it calibrated. Then it will get very close to the Sony, if not identical. But yeah, every TV maker has a color science. Samsung has found its color science. It's pretty consistent. And we'll have the S95H here. So the S95H uncalibrated, and then we'll have the Sony Bravia 8 Mark II uncalibrated, professional mode, and then we'll have the G6 calibrated, and then we'll see, hey, what are the real differences? And we'll have the reference monitor as well. So maybe that'll help you guys kind of decide, is accurate color for me or not? And hey, thank you for that super chat. Cash my check. I don't like HDR because it's too dim. It's so excited about Dolby Vision 2 Max being able to brighten the dim HDR content, and Dolby Vision original version sucks. So wouldn't I be wasting money if I get a Sony True RGB Bravia 9 just to watch SDR? Oh, you always give me these comments that there's so much to unpack because we have so many issues to talk about. First, I don't like HDR because it's too dim. So this is why HDR is too dim, right? And color graders don't know what to do with this. HDR means high dynamic range. What does dynamic range mean? It means you have the darkest area in the same scene as the brightest area, right? So you have to have dark to have bright, because if everything is same brightness, that's SDR. That's the dynamic range isn't there. So you have this dark part of the scene, really dark, maybe this bright part of the scene, really bright. So how do you get this to look awesome? This has to be even darker. Actually, the whole scene has to be even darker. Then this really pops. So the perfect example is you're in a dim room, you have a bright candle. In SDR, the room is not that dim. The candle is not that bright. So it looks like a semi-dark room, right? Shadowy. Then you have the HDR version of that same room. The shadows are even darker. Everything is slightly darker, but then the candle's like 1,000 nits. Oh, right? Kind of like real life, because in real life, that candle, your eyes are like going crazy, right? It's shrinking, then it's getting big because it's a dark room, so your irises are expanded, right? Cones and rods and all that. And then you see the candle, then it shrinks again. So that's what they're trying to do, is reproduce the craziness of real life. And it's not comfortable. Yeah, it's like, wow, wait, is it dark? Is it bright? That's the problem. And so the color grader, when they do HDR, they have to navigate that. And so how they navigate is, let's make everything dark and they have that one thing really bright. So we get that dynamic range. And they also have to consider that the TV itself limits how bright things can get. Because if they want a candle to be super bright, in order to have enough power available to do that, the rest of the scene has to be a little bit darker, right? So the tone mapping also comes into play here. So, you got a lot of things happening, but this is why HDR appears dim. To make HDR HDR, you have to have more of the scene dim, so the brighter part of the scenes really pop. SDR, everything is kind of compressed brightness-wise into the same 100 nits, so they all look kind of the same. And so that's the HDR impact I talk about. Now, Dolby Vision 2 Max. So here's the thing. Is it going to brighten dim HDR? It's supposed to just brighten the part of the scene that's supposed to be bright. So if anything, the dark part stays dark. So I don't know if that helps your situation. So you might have to go to Dolby Vision 2 Max IQ. So IQ then kind of looks at your room using ambient light sensors from your TV and raises the shadows to match your room. So Dolby Vision 2 Max, if that part is enabled, then it should raise the brightness of the rest of the scene to match your ambient room brightness. So that's the intelligence that Dolby Vision 2 brings to the table. So that could do it. That could do it if that part is enabled. But it's up to the TV maker to tune that correctly, by the way. And Dolby Vision Original sucks. Well, that's because TV makers inconsistently apply Dolby Vision. That's just what it is. So the source content might be graded well, but then the TV doesn't know what to do with it. It's too dark, it's too bright, whatever. Or the source content was lazy and they misapplied Dolby Vision, so now it sucks. So there are a lot of possible issues in terms of bottlenecks to performance there. So I won't be wasting my money. So if I get the RGB Bravia 9 to just watch, so would I be wasting my money to get true RGB Bravia 9 just to watch SDR? No, because if you saw my demo and I timestamped it, the vivid mode, in my opinion, is what Dolby Vision 2 Max will be doing. Increasing the brightness of the specular highlights in a bright scene, that specular highlight gets even brighter. Instead of the whole scene getting bright, which is what vivid mode does, by the way, every TV's vivid mode, everything is just brighter. But on the Bravia 9 Mark II, everything is brighter, but that specular highlight gets even brighter. So they raise that, so it has that three-dimensional pop that really stands out in a bright room. So vivid mode is why you wouldn't be wasting your money. If you're in a brighter room and you want that HDR pop, that's when you would watch it, vivid mode. It looks great. It looks phenomenal. I tried it with different action movies. We tried it with Speed Racer, right? And yes, it makes Jurassic Park look better. All the movies that I complain was kind of dim, vivid mode, because that's that kind of movie, just boom. But the key is, I wouldn't watch it in a dark room. It's like, wow, it's really bright. But it's perfect for bright room watching where you're with friends and like, oh my God, that looks so much better than my TV at home. That's where it comes to play. Definitely. So just to watch SDR, yeah, I mean, we're back to Columbo. Would you get the True RGB Bravia 9 just to watch SDR? Heck, get the Bravia 7 just to get, Bravia 5, right? Save even more money. Get the 98-inch Bravia 5 SDR Beast. That TV is indistinguishable watching Columbo, Bionic Woman, Friends, than any TV that's better than that at 98 inches. So yeah, you're right. If you're just watching SDR, this applies to any TV brand. Get the Bravia 5, call it a day. Great skin tones, amazing image processing, low bitrate content, 98-inch size, clean. Ratings loved it as well. As a matter of fact, they felt the larger size completely outperformed the smaller sizes. So I highly recommend for SDR watching, just get the Bravia 5, start there. Or if you want the audio, then you might have to start with the Bravia 7 Mark II, 98 inches to get the wire. Oh, I know, Bravia 5, I think you can get the wireless. Yes, Bravia 5, I think you can get the direct wireless as well. So yeah, actually, you know what? That'd be a great upgrade, actually. If you have the Bravia 5, that just turns the TV into a movie theater. So Bravia 5, 98-inch, sub 9, and then not enough, add the Trio plus the rears. Still not enough, add a second sub. So there's that growth path that's affordable for you guys. All right. Are you getting the LG RGB? It's more expensive than the Bravia 9 Mark II for 75 inches. So LG is not known for sending out review units. They have very, very small, limited quantities to send out. I would have to check it out at Value Electronics. So at some point, and the LG RGB, I think only comes in one size. It's like 98 inches. That's it. So I would have to compare it to whatever 98-inch Robert has there, maybe the TCL X11L or something like that. So we'll see. Yeah, LG is not all in on LCD TVs, if you can't tell. But yeah, it's interesting that it's so expensive. But I suspect it will be aggressively discounted by Black Friday. And oh, look, Lisa's here. Lisa, haven't seen you in a while, love. Thank you for coming by. We love your presence. Okay, and I'm going to double down on Don's comment. I love this so much. We definitely don't need more brightness on TVs now, right? If you guys missed it, I had the video. The brightness wars are over. And the reason is I feel the TV brightness is there. The content isn't, but Dolby Vision 2 Max, now we have a reason to have bright TVs because it'll elevate the content, the specular highlights to your TV's power. But I think we're there, right? I don't think we need 10,000 nits. I think where we are now with 4, 5, 6,000 nits, the QM8L you guys saw, phenomenal. And it taps out at 4 or 5,000 nits. I think we're there. Work on other stuff. So what other stuff should we work on? drop the prices. Let's get these prices down so that for $1,000 I can get an amazing 98-inch TV, right? We're almost there, very close. The QM 6K is like 1,400, 1,200 at Costco, 98-inch size. So we're getting so close. A few more years and we will be there. Look at this guy. Two 18-inch PSA subs. So if you guys don't know, PSA subs are just, they only make subs, right? Awesome. And the 9-cuff speaker system, I'm going to know. Yes, you are. Hey, but share with us, what is your processor, right? Are you using a receiver? Are you using dedicated amps? This sounds like you got a pretty strong subsystem happening there. I love it. Looking for anything I missed in terms of questions. But yeah, if I missed it, just ask it. I'm sure I'll find it. And here you go. Robert, thank you for that quick follow-up super chat. Obviously, why LG won't unleash the G6. Burn-in. So we have to give you context because a lot of new viewers don't understand what you mean. Robert Conrad's got the G5, had the G6. Both of them had burn-in, right? He watches, bright content, whatnot. At the end of the day, though, it was burn-in, right, Robert? And so most likely Robert will be moving to the Sony True RGB because you can watch the brightest scenes to his heart content and not risk burn-in. And so here we are. This is why LG held back the G6 brightness, right? So to win reviews, it knows, all the TV knows, when you put on a pattern. So the minute a TV reviewer, right, calibrators, they stick a pattern in, oh my gosh, 4,000 nits, they write it down and it's posted on the internet, G6 capable of 4,000 nits, and then you run it in real content, Jennifer Gala, which does have 4,000 nits, you're like, wait a minute, the TV is only putting out 1,500 nits. What the heck? That's the trick. The panel is capable of super bright, but in real content, they don't want this TV to burn in. Tone map the heck out of it, right? Bring it down, right? At the panel level. So even if you turn off tone mapping, it's not going to go up to 4,000 nit. It is a hard cap to protect the TV. And I saw it happening with the G5, right? My G5 was sustaining its brightest vivid mode minutes on minutes. Didn't even dim. Did a firmware update last month. 30 seconds in, boom, dropped. The minute I put it on max brightness, static image to demonstrate something, you guys saw on the live stream, we're like, wait a minute, what happened to the G5? It never did this before. Did it now. So this is why people tell you, don't update your TV. If you love how it looks, freeze it, lock it in place, right? Unless you really need the new firmware update. When you update, you do not know what's going to happen next. And so what happened was my G5 is no longer that brightness beast. Why? People like Robert getting burned in. He's like, oh my gosh, I got burned in. And LG's like, oh. And so they added a firmware to make sure people like Robert don't get burned in because he enjoys watching his TVs bright. But what did we say? OLED is not designed for that. It's designed for dark room, perfect contrast, so you benefit from that infinite contrast in a darker room, light-controlled room. If you're in a bright room or you just love bright scenes, what's the point of perfect contrast? Now, the perfect contrast is no longer relevant. SQD, X11L, Bravia 9, Bravia 9 Mark II, QM8L, they all look like OLED TVs in a bright room in standard mode, in the brightest modes, right? In cinema, cinema home, stuff like that. So, you're right. I have a fear the G6 will never be unleashed. Not happening because of burn-in. I think that's... So what's the point of announcing, hey, I have another brighter OLED coming in 2027? Sales and marketing, but you will not see it on Jennifer's content because Jennifer's putting out 4,000 content. So that's what we'll test. The Bravia 8 Mark II is last year's defending champion, king of TVs. It's QD OLED. Sony is known to be very conservative and not be super bright. Is the G6 going to be brighter than the Bravia 8 Mark II? If not, then you know they are definitely holding it back. And hey, Plasma for Gaming. Thank you for joining us. Love it. Okay, I think something... All right. Here's a good question. Haven't seen this in a while. Fomo. Is there any info on the Panasonic Z95C released on June 18 in Japan? No news. We are in contact with Panasonic in the USA, right? Panasonic USA division. They have no comment about any new TVs yet. There will be an official launch. They cannot mention whether the S95 Z95C will be launched or not, so we really don't know. We got to wait for that official launch in the USA at some point in the next few weeks. At that point, we'll know. But right now, it's just all speculation. I haven't been told anything new. This is amazing. I need to try this. In my experience, ChatGPT is great for dialing in TV calibration settings. So, if you guys don't know, I am so deep into AI and AI agents and all these things because it's so interesting to me what they're capable of doing. I didn't know that ChatGPT would dial in TV calibration settings. Interesting. Interesting indeed. There's got to be some algorithm that I can share with ChatGPT that I can create a unified system. That's interesting because, well, this kind of opens up what I'm planning. So I am planning a dedicated Discord channel later this year where we will have something like this calibration settings, everything, but I'm going to run it off of a, don't yell at me, but a FOMO designed autonomous AI agent where I will personally train this system to incorporate everything we know about TVs moving forward and correct everything as I go along. Because it's the only way I'm able to scale my knowledge to help you all, but to create a fun conversation. Because you can sit and yell at my TV bots all day long and they will yell back and give you great information. We're going to have fun because I just love how these AI systems are becoming so interactive in a way that's uncanny. So, but I will be personally training them and I will be there in person as well to keep them in line, but you guys are going to have fun. So we're going to do a lot of this because all of the videos we're doing, all the chats we're doing, everything right, I'm going to make sure that it reflects who we are as TV enthusiasts. So at some point, if a TV brand says to me, FOMO, what do your people like? Oh, I can create the perfect answer of what the collective in our community likes, don't like about TVs, because it's impossible to track it without the data points that we are presenting here. So we're going to have a lot of fun. At the end of the day, the TV brands apparently are not in tune with what TV enthusiasts want. Definitely, we don't want more ads, right? But yes, this kind of opens the door for what I'm planning as well. Good comment. Great. FOMO is raising RAM prices. Dude, I'm the one paying for the RAM prices. Oh my God. I can't even buy the system I want, right? So I'm waiting to buy at least one or two Mac minis, right? I'm waiting for the M5. It's not even available yet because Apple's like, there's not enough RAM to go around. So I did order M3 Studio, Ultra Studio, because I can't wait for the M5 Ultra Studio. So I'm gonna have to build it off of the M3, and that's not coming until July. That's how backed up everything is in terms of Apple, right? So hopefully by July, I'll get the M3 Ultra Studio to build this off of. But yeah, believe me, I'm not a contributor. I ordered a whopping one Mac Studio, and the max RAM available to me was like what? 96 gigabytes. There's nothing more. Like that's it. That was all I was able to buy. So believe me, I am as much of a victim as you guys are. Good comment. Hey, Dreek, thank you for the super chat. I can't speak for everybody, but Panasonic is a waste of time. I say just leave Panasonic alone and get either an LG, Samsung, or OLED instead. Panasonic is just hanging in there, guys. They are treading water. The volume is not there to support what even Sony is doing, right? Sony sells more TVs than Panasonic. So, yeah, I love Panasonic, but their strategy, this is why they kind of partnered with Skyworth, right? They partnered with Skyworth to bring in more revenues. We'll see, though. I mean, I have hope. I'm optimistic. And good question. This is a very important question by Kiselev. Thank you for that super chat. How does the Bravia 9 Mark II contrast compared to OLED and the best plasma TVs? So the best plasma TV has already been beaten in terms of the contrast and HDR impact. You take it together, right? So let's put the best plasma TVs aside. Yes, it's self-emissive, but it has raised black levels. So it doesn't have perfect contrast the way OLED does. The Bravia 9 Mark II is not an OLED. So let me get that out of the way. In order for you to appreciate and see infinite contrast, you have to be in a dark room. In a dark room, OLED, in the most difficult scenes where OLED stands out, like 1917, the staircase scene where he's crawling up the staircase, the Bravia 8 Mark II, nearly untouchable. Only OLEDs come close. And as good as the Bravia 9 and Bravia 9 Mark II is, it's not as good as the best OLEDs or a reference monitor. So in that environment where you're watching difficult scenes, right, the darker scenes with a lot of shadow detail, in a dark room where your eyes are sensitive to light differences, OLED reigns supreme. So let's just end that discussion right here. If that's the kind of movies you watch, get yourself the largest OLED you can afford. You'll be very happy. You don't need the HDR impact, right? It looks amazing in SDR, shadow detail, untouchable. In a bright room, all of that evens out. So now, even the contrast technically is better on an OLED. In a bright room, your eyes are less sensitive to the contrast differences. The scenes look nearly identical, if not outright identical. And I saw that in all the bright scenes I showed on my live stream. The Bravia 9, the Bravia 9 Mark II, and the Bravia 8 Mark II, Jennifer Gala's content, all look indistinguishable other than slight color differences. The contrast, you couldn't tell which was OLED and which was not. So, brighter room, we're there. Off angle, OLED still reigns supreme. So even in a bright room, if you're about 30 degrees off angle, yeah, OLED's gonna, oh wow, the OLED looks great. I think 15 degrees off angle is still pretty close, but as you get to 20, 25, 30, you're going to see the loss of contrast, the slight loss of color saturation that QD OLED preserves at 80 degrees off angle, right? So 90 degrees off angle. So OLED, dark room watching, those challenging shadow detail scenes, and off angle in a bright or dark room, OLED is untouchable. LCD will never come close. It's just a limitation of the technology. But if you watch on angle and only off by a little bit like this, how my head's moving, indistinguishable in bright content, sports content, just, Columbo, right? All look great. But so yeah, for 95% of people, it is nearly perfect because 95% of people are not watching the challenging scenes, are not that much off angle. But the 5% who have those scenes in a dark room, walk off angle to get popcorn, stick with OLED. That's just untouchable. So each of these TVs are designed with a different use case in mind for sure. So yeah, thanks for that question. If you guys, this is why I always ask you when you ask me, hey, what kind of TV should I get? It's always what content you're watching, what's your budget, size, and ambient light in your room, right? Once I know all of that, then we'll get you to a short list of 2 or 3 TVs that you could choose from. Then we start talking about gaming and HDR impact, sports. Do you need, watch a lot of hockey? We might have to let you know that, with OLED, it's not going to be as bright. So in a bright room, you may lose a bit of that hockey from a distance because it's just not bright enough for you. All of that we can discuss, but that's why I have to ask those information before we can talk about what TV you should get. Okay, what about Samsung? Will they have to partner? So you guys are seeing Samsung's strategic pivot. This year, they got rid of their Neo QLED and instead brought in the R95H and the R85H. Both are RGB TVs, right? Micro RGB is what they call it, but it's RGB mini LED. Those are their top 2 TVs. And then everything below that has been stripped down to save money. So whether it's the QN7 or QN8 or the M80H, they really stripped it down. And when I say strip it, all the stuff that makes a TV look amazing have been taken away so that there's more margin. So Samsung is struggling. They wouldn't do that unless they needed to support shrinking sales. I mean, what are we talking about shrinking? They left China, right? If you guys missed it, last month, Samsung announced we're getting out of China. Our TV losses in China, volume sales, profitability, it's over, right? TCL, Hisense, Skyworth, I mean, you name the top 4 Chinese brands in China, all of them are eating Samsung's lunch. So Samsung is gone from China. Why stop at China? Here's the problem. Whatever is happening in China, it's going to happen everywhere else in the world. Let's talk about the USA. How many of you are buying an M80H versus a QM6K? Now, I love Samsung and what they do. Their technology is amazing, but that's at the premium level. That's the S90F, the S95H, right? Maybe even the R95H. These TVs are all over $2,000, right? Over $1,500 at the very least. But that's not where most people live. Most people live under 1,000, but under 1,000 is where Samsung makes a lot of its money. You suck that out, Samsung may not survive selling just Porsche 911s, right? I mean, this is the whole Porsche problem. When Porsche was limited to selling only 911s, it could not survive. It was losing money. And then it added more affordable, the Boxster, the Cayman, the Cayenne, and then the Macan. Suddenly it was making money because it started selling cars where people live under 80,000, under 90,000, cars that were practical, right? So Samsung, if it's losing that market, the TVs under 1,000, it's not going to survive. And that's why if you look at all the TVs under 1,000, they're stripping out parts, right? Leaving the bare minimum and hoping their name will carry the day. Most consumers will be okay with that. They got an amazing Samsung phone, an amazing Samsung refrigerator, washer, dryer. Oh, the TV must be amazing as well. But if you don't do side-by-side comparison, you don't know. It looks good enough. And the minute you put a TCL next to it that costs a little bit less, whoa, the TCL looks amazing. Give me the TCL. But if it's not side by side, you trust that the Samsung for 800 bucks, best you can buy. Unfortunately, that's not the case anymore. So if Samsung's pivot works, meaning they're dropping their prices, they're making the money, they win back the volume, they'll survive. If not, I can only shrug my shoulders. I don't know. You can't live selling only Porsche 911s, right? You got to have a whole stack of affordable TV models. And Samsung has amazing flagship TVs. It's just everything below mid-tier is just middling at best. This is a great question. Which is better, FOMO, RGB or SQD? This is going to be an ongoing conversation. So TCL and Nanosys is doing a great job punching RGB in the face, and rightly so. RGB technology needs to be done well. If you do not execute on RGB technology, everything that SQD says is correct. Color shift, or that weird, you have green behind it and then your face is green, whatever, right? All of that, the impurity of backlight colors. And then if you want to remove it, you make it all white. But if you make it all white, what's the point? Just have SQD, right? They're not wrong. To do it right also is not cheap. So you have this, I think Sony did it right. As you guys saw in my comparison, Sony also has a feature where you turn off the RGB and it's all white. So essentially it's like SQD without the QD, right? Maybe it's just S, just super backlight. But SQD's criticism of RGB in those patterns is spot on true. However, and this is the big one, do you see it in real content? So I found a scene in Speed Racer 4K remaster, right? You guys saw my post, so if not, after this stream, check it out. You have bright green grass and you have the girl with pale skin. Technically, based on what SQD or TCL said and LG, right? That was inspired by LG's criticism. Her face would be more green on an RGB TV than on a SQD or on an OLED. We will see if that's the case. I'm getting the 75-inch UR9 next to the 75-inch QM8L, and we'll have the Bravia, and then we'll have an OLED as well, right? So we'll have Bravia 9 Mark II, we'll have everything. And then we'll see, as her, we'll have her face, and we'll look at the differences between the different TVs, then you'll know. Did it make a difference? If not, I mean, it doesn't get more green than that vibrant grass, and her face more pale. If you don't see it, then regardless of the pattern issues in real content, it's not a problem. And so it ends up being criticizing the pattern, but maybe in real content, it doesn't make a difference. I don't know. We have to test it, because the issue I have with patterns is, just like LG G6, 4,000 nits. Oh, it performs just like the C6H in real content. Let's see what real content says. So right now, I can tell you that the Sony RGB looks absolutely fine. I didn't see any issues with that scene next to the Bravia 8 Mark II, next to the reference monitor, but we need to test it for all the RGB TVs. So Samsung's coming in as well, R95H. We'll test it with that and see if that's an issue for them. And we'll see, definitely. All right, I think we've been going on for an hour and a half. We had an hour and a half. Yep. So we're almost an hour and a half. You guys are awesome. And the super chats keep on coming. Thank you, cashing my check. Let's hit that real quick. Nanosys and TCL teaming up to try to keep quantum dots alive. So if you guys don't know, Nanosys is the inventor of the quantum dot for TVs, right? So every time you see QD or QLED, Nanosys is the company behind the technology. And TCL teaming up. So yes, Nanosys specifically designed SQD for TCL. Only TCL has access to SQD, the super quantum dot system with a slightly wider BT 2020 color gamut, right? And they try to keep quantum dots alive. So why? RGB TVs do not use quantum dots. They've literally replaced the backlight with individual red, green, blue LEDs. So you don't need quantum dots. But I say they are both wrong and just need to give it up with the SQD nonsense and accept the Sony True RGB is the way to go. So, one thing to unpack, Sony True RGB is the way to go if you're willing to pay the price. I believe quantum dot backlight, SQD or not, is the affordable way to go. So, okay, you know what? Forget quantum dots. The Bravia 9, I don't even know if it has quantum dots, right? Sony has never said the Bravia 9 had quantum dots, and the Bravia 5, Sony said does not have quantum dots. Bravia 5 looks great. So whether or not something has quantum dots, the backlight system across the board, I think, has improved to the point where I don't know if it matters as far as LCD TVs are concerned. So whether it's True RGB, whether it's quantum dot, real images all look amazing as long as it's tuned accurately with the image processor. That has nothing to do with the quantum dots and everything to do with the software and the tuning by the TV makers themselves. So I think as great as quantum dots are as a technology for LCD TVs, it doesn't matter. I hate to say it, but for OLED TVs, the quantum dot color converting layer, like the QD OLED from Sony, Bravia 8 Mark II, or the Samsung S95H, last year's S90F, and prior year S95 series as well, they do make the TVs look better. That's why they are winning the shootouts across the board. The color luminance is more pure and more accurate up and down the brightness scale. WOLED has to choose their poison. If they want to be accurate near black, less accurate above black. If they're accurate above black, oversaturated near black, right? WOLED has a limited band of accuracy. Now, with Tandem, they were able to expand that band a little bit more. So maybe in the shootout this year, LG with its new G6 6 nanometer chipset processing and image processing might get a win maybe this year, but in prior years it could not win because of that band limitation. So LG had to choose their poison. Accurate near black, accurate in the midtones, or accurate at the super bright. Who wants to be accurate super bright, right? It's bright, it flashes, give that up. So then LG has to decide accurate midtones or accurate near black. They normally choose midtones because that's where most TV color lives, but that's why they always lose near black. Near black color starts to shift and either oversaturates or desaturates, whatever. And so can they address that with processing this year? 6 nanometer might give them enough cycles to shift it in the whole scene, right? So we'll see. Kind of got off course from your super chat, but this is why QD OLED consistently beats LG's WOLED. So until LG addresses that, they alternatively have to get rid of the W in WOLED, because that's what is contributing to the drop in color saturation. They're using a color filter, and the white subpixel, right? Together, those two things, the white subpixel and the color filter, drops color saturation just a touch, but definitely enough to lose the TV shootout. So, good question. I didn't realize I'd get off on a tangent like that, but that's what happens when you guys ask me questions. Okay, Primodius, thank you for the super chat. S90C, 65-inch. Amazing TV, by the way. One of the last QD OLEDs in the S90 series, because as you know, this year S90H has gone with WOLED to save money, is my opinion. So S90C 65-inch or upgrade to the Bravia 9 Mark II 85-inch. I would totally upgrade to the 85-inch, assuming you're in a somewhat bright room, to take full advantage of what the Bravia 9 Mark II offers. Because, okay, so 9 Mark II does three things better than the Bravia 9. 1, better color saturation off angle. 2, better light handling in a bright room. The Bravia 9 in a bright room, some people complain of the rainbow effect if the bright light is on the screen. 9 Mark II completely eliminates that. And part 3 is its vivid mode in a bright room is absolutely jaw-dropping, amazing. So those are the 3 reasons I would use the Bravia 9 Mark II over the Bravia 9. But if you're watching in a light-controlled room and you're just going for that bright impact, get the 85-inch Bravia 9. It gets you 98% of the way there. The only thing that you're missing now is off-angle color saturation is still better on the Bravia 9 Mark II, and noticeably so, but the black levels are the same. On angle, contrast is indistinguishable. It's that good, the Bravia 9, but both do have access to the amazing dual subwoofer system with a trio or a single subwoofer. I mean, all that's available on the Bravia 9. So, depending on your use case, it would be between the Bravia 9, 85-inch, if it's still available in your area. In the US, it's mostly sold out, but I would consider the Bravia 9 as well. So, yeah, hopefully let us know which one you choose. But the jump to 85 inches, awesome. You will love it, especially if you add the audio dual subwoofer system. Now, to be fair, LG G6 83-inch, I believe, has the potential to add 4 of their wireless subs. I'm going to talk to LG and confirm that. But I think they said, because they have 4 channels of wireless you could do. And they said those 4 channels, because they do have subs. Now, these subs aren't one-on-one as powerful as the Sony subs, but maybe 4 of them can make up the difference, so we'll see. So yes, LG also has their Flex Connect system where you could add multiple subwoofers as well. So yeah, they're all driving to the same direction. I love it. Only TCL has access to SQD. This year, absolutely correct. TCL has the exclusive on SQD in 2026. Whether that opens up in 2027, we don't yet know. But I will tell you this. Bravia is majority owned by TCL. So Bravia does have access to SQD. Whether TCL chooses to give Bravia SQD is a different matter. So complicated, isn't it? We'll see. It has access to it for sure. TCL's building Bravia TVs starting now. So, next year production, you see a date of 2027. That's a Bravia production owned by TCL, 51%, and it's up to TCL to add SQD to the non-RGB, true RGB lineup. But since true RGB is also using TCL panel parts, why SQD? If true RGB is even better, then, use true RGB. Because remember, TCL didn't say all RGB is bad. They just pointed out some of these RGBs are bad, which was their own RM9L. And I would say the Hisense UR9, it was thrown under the bus as well. But they didn't outright say the UR9. But we know who they're talking about. Right, this is what was TCL scammed by Nanosys to pay top dollar. Actually, the story was the opposite. TCL, I don't want to say forced, but told Nanosys, make this for us. Now, make what? TCL said to Nanosys, we want 100% BT 2020. Your backlight needs to do 100% BT 2020. It has to support that. And Nanosys is like, we can do it, but there's no color filter. that will do it. It has to be both, right? Your backlight has to support it, and you have to get an all-new color filter to support it. And NanoSys doesn't make color filters. Like, we'll do it, but do you have the color filter for it? And they're like, well, of course, we make the color filters. Just do it. And so NanoSys is like, all right then. So NanoSys, at TCL's request, produced the SQD backlight, and then TCL designed the color filter. So it's two one-offs. Only the color filter that TCL designed can be used with the SQD backlight. That's how they control the SQD. So even if NanoSys tried to sell someone else the SQD, you need both. Color filter's not there. You still got to buy the color filter from TCL. So TCL owns the stack, right? So that's why they have a lock on this. Yeah, so it's actually the other way around. Maybe NanoSys was scammed into making SQD, because imagine how expensive it is to make one thing for only one company and not be able to sell it to anyone else, right? So believe me, TCL paid a pretty penny to lock that down for itself only. But that's why the QM8L and the X11L cost a bit more than you would expect from a TCL, because NanoSys is like, this is a one-off. We can't sell this to anyone because no one else has access to your special color filter. That is the truth. I'm sure it will be denied, but you heard it here first. Okay, so maybe TCL X12L beats the Bravia 9 Mark II next year. How would it beat the Bravia 9 Mark II? Image processing. That's the only way. Sony image processing is absolutely amazing. So TCL, if you're listening, this is how you beat the Bravia 9 Mark II. Off angle. You guys know it. Get the Bravia 9 Mark II, look off angle, amazing color saturation preserved, contrast preserved, best in class. You saw that. Next, anti-glare matte from the Bravia 9 Mark II is amazing. Use that. Because the anti-glare that's currently on the X11L, not as good as the one on the G6. So the G6 gloss is also amazing, right? The top two anti-glare, anti-reflective panel systems available today: the G6 glossy or the Bravia 9 matte. The matte on the Bravia 9 is not as obvious as the matte on the S95H. So I think the Bravia 9 just did a perfect hybrid of gloss, and maybe it's like a semi-matte, if I'm being honest. So that's another one. And then lastly, color accuracy, color tuning out of the box. Oh, and of course, vivid mode, right? Either turn on Dolby Vision 2 Max, no, make sure it works, or have your vivid mode tuned like the Bravia 9 Mark II, where you're just increasing the specular highlights as well as, the brighter scenes, but you got to push that to the limit of your TV. Knowing that at least you'll match the Bravia 9 Mark II. To beat it, then game mode, right? Make sure your game mode works well. Make sure the motion issues are cleared up so that you really do support 144 hertz gaming, not just by spec. It actually looks good without compromising the image quality. Those things add the layer that the Bravia 9 Mark II is missing. The Bravia 9 Mark II is not a gaming TV per se. You can do console gaming fine, Switch and PS5, PS5 Pro, but PC gamers should find an OLED. So maybe the 12L can do those things. But it needs to get its color accuracy consistent. It did well this year. Don't walk back next year. And at that price, people want their TV calibrated. TCLs are very difficult to calibrate because it doesn't hold the calibration consistently. So they got to fix that as well if they're going to play at that level. Okay. And a super chat from Volt Junk. Hey, thank you, buddy. For 98-inch TV, QM8K or the QM7L? So I have the QM8K here. The QM7L is on its way. Now, just so you temper your expectations, the QM8K is a 65-inch TV that I have. The QM7L that's coming is a 75-inch TV. The sizes are slightly off. TCL is known to have their large TVs slightly brighter than their smaller TVs. The question is whether the QM8K, same size as the QM7L, will perform similarly. So the QM7L, you know what, I have to look at the number of dimming zones. One, it's the number of dimming zones and processing of those dimming zones and the color accuracy. I think those things, doesn't matter what the sizes are, The QM 8K pushed red a little bit out of the box. Most people are okay with that because, a little red, a little bit more blush is a lot better than not enough red where everyone looks sickly. Let's see how the QM 7L does in color accuracy. Right now, I can't say, but I'll tell you the 98-inch QM 8K is going to be a great deal by the time the QM 7L releases this month, next month. Prime Day, you're not going to match the price of the QM 8K. So value, the QM 8K is the way to go. You always choose last year's TV for value. And if the QM 7L does beat it, minor victory, maybe in color accuracy, and the availability of Dolby Vision 2. Not 2 Max, just Dolby Vision 2 is available on the QM7L. But those are all paper specs. Yeah, we'll see. QM7L is on its way. I think I'll have it next week. QM8K in that room over there. So yeah, we'll see. Samsung and Hisense aren't true RGB. Depends on what your definition is. True RGB means, to those who are in the know, there is no LCD layer. It's emissive. Basically, micro LEDs are true RGB. Each LED is RGB. There is no color filter. There's nothing separating you from the R, G, and B, right? Whereas micro RGB, RGB meaning LED, ultimately they're all LCD TVs. And the RGB is in the backlight, right? So if I remove the LCD, you see a bunch of red, green blobs. That's it. That's terrible, right? You can't watch TV like that. Yes. So if you mean each pixel is red, green, blue, Hisense and Samsung are not true RGB. The only true RGB right now that you can buy affordably that's not micro LED is actually QD OLED. QD OLED is true RGB. They don't use a color filter. Red and green is a color converting quantum dot. Individual red and green quantum dots. So that's R and G. And the blue is the OLED. The blue is an OLED pass-through. So that is a pure blue. That's OLED. So you got red and green, pure RG, quantum dots, and then pure blue OLED, or a mix of blue and green depending on the panel stack, but it represents blue. That's it. That is true RGB. LG is not true RGB. The white subpixel and the color filter takes you down a step, right? So if you disagree, let me know, but that's why we love quantum dot OLEDs. It is the only true RGB you could buy right now, short of a micro LED RGB TV. All right. Night of Cyber, coming from an S95D. Oh, what a great TV that was. I have the 77-inch. Get the S95H or wait for 2027. Unless, okay, if you're going from a 55-inch to a 77, absolutely. You're getting a bigger size, right? The only reason you'd get the S95H is matte, anti-glare. Are you in a room with a lot of ambient light? You will benefit from the S95H anti-glare matte screen. The S95D was the last year of the non-matte, right? They started the S95F. So with the 95D, you're enjoying a glossy, deep black, but the 95H will add a matte layer, but then a bright room, I think you benefit. Personally, I like it, but you'll have to decide. And in a dark room, it doesn't matter. It's all the same. Also, you have the bezel, the 95H. So if you don't hang it on a wall, it looks completely silly sitting on a stand with a bezel, right? So make sure it's wall mounted or something like that. But the only reason to upgrade, the best reason, is you're going bigger from a 55 to a 77 and still preserve your quantum dot, right? QD OLED. If you go to 83, then you're moving to a tandem OLED, which you may or may not even notice the difference. But waiting for 2027 doesn't change anything. I don't see Samsung do anything different in 2027. The matte screen stays. Maybe the bezel will go. Maybe not. Maybe the bezel gets bigger in 2027. They double down to a 4-inch bezel in 2027. Who knows? But hopefully it's still quantum dot in 2027. But I'd say get it if you're going bigger. If you're staying the same size, the S95D is phenomenal. There's no reason to upgrade. I still have the 77-inch. It still performs perfectly. Love that TV. All right. Hey, thank you for the super chat. Big Phil, you're here. Fomo, from my super chat earlier. I never found your question. I'm so sorry, Big Phil. Coming from a 65-inch A95K. I still have that TV. That's my bedroom TV. I love that TV. What are your thoughts on getting the 77-inch A95L now on sale for $3,500? Get it. The bigger size, 12-inch jump. I love it. I love the A95K, by the way. My wife will never give away that TV. For the bedroom, it is absolutely perfect. 100%. She loves the image. She loves the stand. I know you have the stand, right? It's flush mounted stand. It's a work of art. And so you guys know I have an ultra short throw Hisense L9Q, which we love, right? Immersion. So we're like 10 feet away from a 120 inch, 115-inch size. Amazing. But, and this is the big one, she enjoys watching the A95K from 7 feet away. So it's not that as immersive, but she just likes to sit a little bit closer to the A95K. And this is what she told me. I was watching Bewitched the other day. On the A95K, I could see the little strings and special effects. I can't believe it. Now I know how they fly around. On the L9Q, it's like cinema. I cannot see the string. It looks like real magic. I go, oh, so which one you like? L9Q goes, no, I like the 895K. I want to see the little strings pulling around Bewitched, right? I was like, I didn't expect that. So now she's back in the bedroom, sitting 6, 7 feet away from the TV, watching Bewitched and all her old favorite shows to look for the special effects that only she could see on the 895K. I love it. So, you know what? So here I am enjoying the immersion. And my wife's like, no, no, no. Well, you're not here. I sit 6 feet away from the 65-inch watching old TV shows and looking for all the special effect Easter eggs that you don't find unless you're on an OLED. But back to your question. Yes, 77-inch A95L, everything is consistent. The color science, the brightness is slightly upgraded. The processing is slightly upgraded. Amazing. I just wish they had a 77-inch A95K. That would have been perfect if it's table mounted. Otherwise, yeah, A95L is good TV. And you can add a subwoofer wirelessly, right? So that's what I love. You can add the two rears wirelessly, direct connect, and maybe a sub 8 if your room is smaller. Rear 8, sub 8, 895L, great bundle. On sale for $3,500. Also, if you call Robert Zone, he may give you a 10% bundle package to get the other stuff as well, because he will price match any authorized dealer. And the 10% Fomo deal, he can apply it to a 4-year warranty so that you kind of have the pro approach with those savings. So yeah, definitely I say give Robert Zone a call and see if you can match that. Love my TV now, but don't want to downgrade. Also paired, oh, you have the A9 SW5. Yes, HTA9. So you're solid. You're set. You don't need to go and upgrade that unless you want two dual subwoofers. But yeah, HTA9 is awesome. Loved it. Okay. And this one, the biggest problem I see, so we're talking about this is the whole SQD versus RGB, is whether expanded color space is fouled by color crosstalk or not, making the expanded color space not matter. I absolutely agree. The question is whether or not it's fouled in real content. So I'm going to have to find more movies to demonstrate this. So, check out my post. I found this scene in Speed Racer, bright green, vibrant grass, her pale face right in front of it, similar to what they're testing at the SQD LG banter about RGB not being good enough. So if there's no problem showing this scene, can you guys give me other scenes that possibly could have this crosstalk as an issue in real content? Not the crossbar with the bright green here, and then the crossbar has a little bit of green bleed. I get it. Pattern fail. But if you don't see that in real content, and now you're just like, well, one day if I watch real content, this could be an issue, then you get caught up in things that may or may not happen. So I don't want that to happen. I want real content that we can test. And I've asked NanoSys, by the way, so it's not me talking in the vacuum with you guys, an echo chamber. NanoSys knows we need real content. So great, you created a demo. Find me some movies. So they're out there watching all these movies, having an SQD TV next to an RGB, and pausing to see which ones actually directly affects the crosstalk or directly affects the RGB. Otherwise, you're just kind of talking patterns that no one cares about, nor should you care about if it doesn't affect real content. Look at this, FOMO. To perform crosstalk color test, the best tool you can use is the Faces 8K demo. Jacob Katie Swartz channel. So, two things. Jacob and Katie Swartz will not let anyone show their content on YouTube. Period. Jennifer Gala does. She gives me, TV reviewers, permission. So I have no problem showing Jennifer. If I show Jacob and Katie, I will get a quick letter from an attorney, take that video down, or pay us $10,000. You make your choice. I'm like, you know what? I will make my own video. So I'm debating creating my own faces where it's different variations of Fomo's face with a changing background, and maybe that'll be the test, right? Now I have to decide, should I make it 400 nits, 1,000 nits? So maybe I should make it like one scene, it's 100 nits, two, 5, 1,000, 2,000 nits, because at certain brightnesses, maybe the face changes color, and then we'll see. So yeah, let me know. You guys want that? You want more Fomo faces in different shades of green? At different brightnesses, because I could easily create that, being AI and all, just tell the latest AI agent, hey, make my face with a changing background in different nip brightnesses, and boom, we're done for free. Cash my check. Boy, guys, get off work early today. Thank you for that super chat, my friend. Why would anyone want a 97-inch OLED if LG caps their premium brightness feature to 77, 83 inches only? That means you basically are getting less premium size 97-inch anyway. Good point, but it's nuanced. 97-inch OLED, it is so hard to create a power board, right? A power system, PSU, whatever you want to call it, to generate that much brightness, that large a TV, and not have heat throttling anyway, or require so much energy that heat becomes a problem. Then you have to have a thicker, much thicker, whatever, casing to have the heat sink or whatever it needs to preserve longevity and keep the prices reasonable. And it's already $23,000. So I know it's expensive, but $23,000 gets you a 97-inch OLED at the very least. There is no other 97-inch OLED. There is no other self-emissive TV technology at that size. That's SDR perfection. And maybe with some of that C6 magic with the improved processing, it elevates it a little bit more. Brightness isn't going to jump that much, but maybe the processing gives it more of that impact in those HDR scenes. But I understand why they limited it. It's really expensive to reinforce a TV at that size, at that brightness, ensure longevity, and have enough power to power everything. Then they have to have a special one-off power board just for it, and so that adds to the cost and all of that. But yeah, I mean, already it's at $23,000. To do it with the full Tandem stack, $33,000. But then again, maybe at $33,000 or 23 is all the same anyway, right? If you could drop 23, what's another 10,000? I don't know. I don't play in that area, so I could tell you, but I guess they've already gone through that calculus and they felt, you know what, we gotta stop the price at 23. We cannot go to 33. All right, and wait, I'm going to take this comment because Yoga has a good comment. Thank you, Yoga. If you make a mid-range too good and too similar to a flagship, people will be arrogant and expect good stuff at low prices. No one will buy the flagship. This is what Samsung did with the Q8FN. How many of you remember the Q8FN, right? Q9FN, great. Q8FN was so good, no one needed to get the Q9FN, and they did it again with the QN90, QN85C, QN85B. The QN85C and QN85B with the ADS Pro panel was so good, I was tempted that would have been the flagship that year because I had it next to the QN95 and I felt the QN85 off angle looked even better and the contrast was nearly identical. Twice Samsung has done it. So those of you who got the QN85B or the QN85C or the QN8FN, you got exactly this TV. And those are the years where if you got the flagship, I think you got robbed. You could have gotten this one. The LG did not make that mistake again. So they got rid of the flagship completely or got rid of the mid-tier completely. But yeah, so, that I thought that comment was great because it actually happened to, and it happened to Hisense, right? The last 3 years, the U7 outperformed the U8. And this year, I felt the U7 SG outperformed the U9R. Like, what? So Hisense has consistently made their U7 as good as, if not better, than their U8 and this year U9. Yes, U9 is brighter. That's it. But everything else, I thought the U7SG for most people would be the better TV. Value aside, it was more color accurate. It's not as bright, but that's about it. So I don't know. You tell me. And thank you, El Chefe TV, for that super chat. When in Filmmaker, when you change the backlight mode, do you feel the lack of difference means Sony isn't really using RGB for accuracy? True RGB? I think that Sony did a good job with maintaining consistency, whether it's, I mean, there was a slight change, but maybe I needed a different scene. You see what I'm saying? It's like I didn't put it the right scene for us to see the difference. Maybe I needed the green grass to be at 500 nits, and then maybe her face will change color if it's not white. Because that scene specifically tapped out at 200 nits. I think maybe 150 nits. So as bright as it appeared, it wasn't that bright. And by the way, 150 to 200 nits is pretty bright still. But maybe this issue about color crosstalk and stuff, maybe there's a certain minimum brightness for us to really see it. But at that brightness, I didn't see a difference. So I'm going to try now. You guys have convinced me. I'm going to create my own testing content where we have different brightness levels, right? Well 50 nits, face, background, then 150 nits, and then 300 nits, or we just keep on doubling the brightness, right? So to double the brightness, you double the nits. So start at 50, go to 100, 200, 400, and then 1,000 nits. And there's no content above 1,000 nits after that. So we kind of stop at 1,000 nits, and we'll try that. So at some point, I'll make time to create that for you guys. We'll see what happens. Okay, and I think we're ready to wrap up. Oh, this one's a good question. When is the R95H coming, sir? So the S95H is coming, so that one's first. As soon as I'm done with that, Samsung will then swap out the S95H for the R95H. So my prediction is I'll spend June doing the S95H because May is almost over, and July doing the R95H. So June S95H comparisons, and then end of June, I'll get the R95H. I can't imagine keeping the S95H for longer than 2 or 3 weeks to test it against the G6 and the Bravia 8 Mark II. And then we'll be at the end of June into July, and we'll get the R95H just in time to get us ready for the shootout on July 18th. Okay. Okay, I think, let me double check if I didn't miss any super chats, and if I did, let me know. I think we're good. So I'll take one more question, and then we will wrap up. And don't forget to click like, everyone, so people can enjoy their weekend with this video, because then YouTube will say, hey, watch this live stream, because so many people liked it. Let's see. Let me choose a good question here. A question that pushes me to talk about way too many things. Let's see. A couple of good questions here. This one is promising. All right, last question. Could Bravia Inc., currently owned by TCL and Sony, do SQD Inkjet OLED? You guys just throwing in those acronyms. Hey, how about shoes with Nike Air and this, that, and the other? Okay, so these things don't work together at all, right? SQD specifically only works with LCD TVs. So if it's an LCD TV, SQD was designed to make LCD TVs better. Therefore, OLED does not need SQD. Inkjet OLED actually has a special power. Inkjet OLED is individual. They are individual red, green, blue, direct view OLED, not WOLED. Inkjet printed OLED, IJP OLED are R, G, and B. Individual red, green, blue. Let that sink in for a second. That means it's the same technology that's in your smartphone, right? So people with OLEDs on their smartphone, that's not WOLED. That is red, green, blue, direct view, wider color gamut, better color purity. This is why your smartphone OLED panels look better than your TV. This is why your iPad Tandem looks better These are red, green, blue, individual. Well, we talked about it earlier. Hey, is that a true RGB TV? These things are not made for TVs. Those are true RGBs though. So those are true RGB panels, and Inkjet OLED is true RGB. So you don't need SQD. You don't need any of this fancy layers to make it look any better. It looks perfect. But why is it not on TVs? That's the $1 million question. The reason is it cannot get bright enough. Burn-in is a huge risk. Originally, Samsung made RGB OLED for TVs. It was burn-in city. Everything burned in. Like after a month of use, all these returns, because the first generation of Samsung OLED were RGB OLED TVs, and it was a disaster of burn-in. LG kept at it. LG's like, so clearly this, transferring smartphone RGB OLED, small OLED panels to TV is not working. We cannot solve burn-in. Let's try mixing in white subpixel and a color filter. So that experiment worked, and then the rest is history. So LG solved the burn-in by using white subpixel and a color filter. Boom, they took over. Samsung bowed out and created QLED as a response to that. But ultimately, without SQD, Bravia Inc. does have access to CSOT, owned by TCL, inkjet printed OLED. Currently, it is in production for IT equipment, meaning small panels, PC monitors, up to 28 inches, 32 inches maybe. Why are they doing that? Because it's limited brightness. People will buy a 500 nit monitor because, for creatives, we don't need anything brighter, right? You don't need 10,000 nits. You could actually push it to 800 nits and have no problem. Actually, both of my monitors here are inkjet printed, right? I have a 36 inch and a 32 inch Pro Art monitors. They are all IJP inkjet printed directly RGB, but they don't get super bright. Bright enough for me as a creator, right? I edit everything, but they would never be bright enough for a TV. They don't exceed 1,000 nits, and that's the problem. If they were to push it to above 1,000 nits, you reintroduce burn-in. And so then some of you will say, well, MLA. So then that should have been your question, Bulmas. What if they introduced MLA inkjet printed OLED? So the MLA adds another 50% of brightness, right? Something like that. So is 50% increase enough? That means you're going from maybe 800 nits to 1,200 nits. No one's going to buy a 1,200 nit TV, unfortunately, because LG has done a great job, as well as Samsung, promoting 4,000 nit TVs, 3,000 nit OLEDs. Inkjet printed is so, if it feels so dim at 1,000 nits compared to 3,000, it's not sellable. That's the issue. So, good question. Unfortunately, they need to do something to increase brightness to 3,000 at least measured, right? Get on a pattern, hit 3,000, shut it down. Like what LG is doing, right? Hit 4,000, shut it down, no burn-in. So if Inkjet could do at least that much, then we might see it. Maybe. All right, I think we're going to wrap this up now. Hey, everyone, have an amazing weekend. Thank you so much for showing up. And my next special coming up will be the G6. It's coming in. We'll see how well it performs against the G5 and the Bravia 8 Mark II. And someone snuck in one more super chat before I go. I will answer this. Thank you, Knight of Cyber. Have they tried 3D printed OLED? No. Right now, they're just trying to figure out 2D printed OLED. So the answer I could say safely is no. But Samsung does have 3D gaming monitors, glasses free. So maybe, right? Maybe there's a special screen layer. So yeah, maybe we're almost there with 3D OLED, just not 3D printed OLED. But you guys are awesome. And Lisa has the last word. Thank you. You're welcome, Lisa. And my friends, enjoy your weekend. Until next time, don't forget to click like on your way out. Till next time, stop.